What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got a lot going on here. Congress is trying to rush through as many things as possible here before the end of the year to get as many things done as possible before the new Congress comes in here in January. And the Democrats actually lose control of the House of Representatives when the Republicans will be taking over control. So we'll be going over some details here on that. Multiple different things here for you guys here in this video. I'm your daily source of what's going on here in our country and on a daily basis. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to click the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any new videos. And thank you for liking and sharing these videos. All right, let's jump right in. Okay, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the annual defense funding bill, sends it to the Senate now. So not fully passed, but passed in the House. Guess how much it cost just for the annual defense funding of our country? $847 billion just for 1 year. And this number goes up every single year. Yeah. And the money that has gone to Ukraine, which actually is tiny compared to this, it's like 40 some billion dollars they've sent here. They're looking for another 40 billion. But if you look here, I mean, 84 billion would be 10% of the amount that they spend every year in defense for our country. So it is actually a tiny amount compared to what they spend here on the defense of our country. Whether we're at war or not, they spend this every single year. But in all fairness, we need to make sure that we're defending our country. But you can let me know your thoughts here on whether you think this is too much, too little, or just the right amount. So this passed 350 to 80. And so there was 80 people that voted no against it, but this is still a super majority. And it will now go to the Senate. Now, there was some significant changes here that they're fast tracking this bill. So they did this with a 2/3 vote to fast track it, not the normal 50% plus one vote. After a last minute push from the Congressional Black Caucus Wednesday night to set up an accompanying vote on the bill bolstering the 1965 Voting Act, which had previously passed through the House but stalled in the Senate. The chamber was initially scheduled to pass the defense bill on Wednesday, but punted action to Thursday because of the CBC holdup. Now, also, this is where it gets interesting here. In a win for Republicans, the measure includes language that repeals the COVID vaccine mandates for service members, which has been in place since August of 2021. Yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts here on this. So this will repeal this for service members if it passes in the Senate. The concession was seen as a surprise by many. The White House and the Pentagon actually spoke out against it, and similar measures to significantly limit the vaccine mandate were voted down in the House Armed Service Bill earlier this year. But Republican lawmakers have been pushing for it. Now, Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the Republicans, actually said in an interview here on Fox News, he said literally the bill will not move if they don't repeal this. So this is something that at least he and some other Republicans feel strongly about. So this was added to the bill and passed in the House, now goes to the Senate. The other question here is if Biden will sign it. Biden, this is the kind of thing where this is kind of forces his hand. This is actually over the veto threshold, actually, of 2/3. But this is you can't really veto a defense bill, well, especially because it's actually over the veto threshold. They could literally just vote on it again, and he would lose. I mean, the Democrats could maybe come to to his back there. But it's kind of a non-veto type of bill that you would do. Veto situations don't really happen in this. Veto situations happen more like when Republicans would have the majority and just maybe a few votes from Democrats would pass it in those type of situations. So, I mean, it could happen. It could happen. We'll see because Biden feels strongly about the vaccines and stuff. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Could happen. We'll see. Now there was thousands of armed service members or service members that lost their jobs because they didn't take the vaccine. It'll be interesting to see what happened. Will they be able to come back? I mean, we'll see. You would think so. You would think that they would be able to come back. Um, yeah, it's interesting how times have changed. Even though obviously the virus is still around, our family literally just caught it here like a week or two ago, and it was kind of rough. My wife was actually in bed for like 7 days. It was rough. Actually, my parents got it as well, and they weren't really affected that much at all. My mom's like 76 years old, and my dad's a few years younger, and my wife's parents got it as well, and they weren't really that bad either. I got it not as bad as my wife. So this just kind of goes to show you that each person can be affected differently. Um, you know, I guess you could kind of compare it to maybe like a flu where, some people can get a flu and sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you'll fight it off quickly, sometimes not. I mean, we're all okay. We get a little bit of a lingering, a little bit of a lingering cough, a little bit of a lingering kind of, phlegm, but for the most part, we're okay. But it's you got to take these things seriously because I mean, there has been a million people that died from this virus. People die from the flu virus every year too, but obviously not a million people in the last 2.5 years. This has been a pretty serious virus. But obviously, times are changing because they're going to be repealing the vaccine mandate, or they have at least in the House passed bill. Whether or not it passes the Senate and the president signs it, we'll see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, Republicans are really kind of holding the gavel here of a might, uh, for lack of a better word here. They're kind of holding the cajones here of power. Yeah, kind of running the show. It seems like already here. It seems more of a give and take here in Congress. Republicans ramping up pressure on McConnell in the Senate to block the spending bill. Block the spending bill. The new push from conservatives to pass a stopgap bill. This is a continuing resolution and not a full government funding bill until next year when Republicans will control the House. Comes the day after Republican candidate Herschel Walker lost in the Senate in Georgia. That loss expanded the Democrat Senate majority in the next Congress and marked the latest Republican loss here. But Senate Republican Steering Committee Chairman Mike Lee from Utah argued that Republican leaders will break nearly 3 decades of precedent if they agree to a full government spending package in the lame duck session after the Chamber of Congress has flipped control. He says, quote, with regard to the spending bill, it's important to remember that since 1994, we've seen control of the House of Representatives shift from one party to another 4 times since 1994. In each of those instances, there was no omnibus or government funding bill passed by Congress following the election, leading to that shift. It didn't happen because it shouldn't happen. The voters have spoken when the control of the House of Representatives shifts. There's an understandable desire on the party incoming, and especially of those who were elected, that you're not going to have spending decisions by the outgoing Congress that was just voted out of office. Republican Senator Rick Scott says this has got to stop. And Rand Paul says Congress has given us the power of the purse. My wife says, yeah, but they didn't win the Senate. So, Rand Paul's a senator. So is still going to really be a lot of, honestly, Republicans are going to control the House. But remember here that it's still basically everything is going to be give and take to pass. Remember, before this, there was the reconciliation bills. But besides that, everything else had to be passed with Republican and Democratic support because everything else needed 60 votes in the Senate, and it was a 50-50 Senate, so you always needed Republican votes. And all the Republicans always voted together, with Mitch McConnell. So you basically didn't get anything passed except for those one or two bills that were passed by reconciliation. So everything else needed Republican support. Now you could pass bills in the House, but it doesn't mean nothing unless you pass a bill in the House and the Senate. So it's not that much of a change. Not that much of a change. Again, so for example, Republicans could pass their own bill in the House with no Democratic votes at all. We'll probably see some bills like that, but it won't mean nothing when it goes over to the Senate and dies if there's no Democratic support. And we've seen that in the past where Democrats would pass a bill in the House, this year, last year, and no Republicans would vote for it. And it wouldn't mean nothing because if there was no Republicans to vote for it in the Senate, it didn't really mean anything. So not much is changing, but on the other hand, things are changing. If you get where I'm going here. So if you got where I'm going here, it's a head scratcher, I know. But in all reality, they still got to work together. They still got to work together. And one thing they're working together on is a potential deal over the child tax credits that they're trying to pass here before the end of the year. Advocates hopeful about getting expanded child tax credits over the lame duck finish line. A lot of people are saying now is the perfect time to do this because it's the end of the year, and also Republicans also have this 2017 Trump tax cuts for corporations expiring, and that's coming to an end here at the end of this year as well for the fiscal tax year that would have to be filed. It's expiring at the end of the year. So they're going to have to make a deal or else neither one could potentially get passed. The adult tax credit, the child tax credit, the corporation tax credit, basically it's just kind of the simplest way to fund it. They're also going to be working on Social Security. Republicans and Democrats working on that as well, how to fix Social Security. So here's the thing that could happen now before the end of the year. There's going to be deals potentially here on several different things. The Democrats, especially, trying to make deals with Republicans because they know they're losing a little bit of power here in the House of Representatives. We know in the scheme of things it doesn't make as much of a big difference, but symbolically it does. Okay. But nonetheless, they're trying to make deals. And the Republicans want to make a deal because they want to get this 2017 corporate tax cut done before the end of the year as well. Now, as you can see here, the legislative battles could start before the end of this year. Republicans are already pushing extension of 3 corporate tax breaks, including 2 that expired at the end of last year and a third that starts to expire next year. Collectively, these three measures would add roughly $600 billion to the federal deficit over 10 years if extended, if they extend them for 10 years, according to the nonpartisan estimates, outstripping the cost of Biden's student loan debt relief program, the cost of which many Republicans have criticized, and increased federal spending at a time of surging inflation. So, $600 billion if they pass them, all three of them. Again, there's several different ones here, and if depending on how long they go for. And remember, these were tax cuts that were already in effect from the 2017 Trump tax cuts, or GOP tax cuts that were passed through the reconciliation process through Republican votes only, no Democratic votes back in 2017. The cost of which you can see here when the Republicans passed this, quote, the Republicans did not want to look like they were giving too much away to businesses. So they had some of the business relief expire and had some offset by business tax increases, said Steve Rothenthal, a policy analyst at the Tax Policy Center, a nonpartisan think tank. Now, to come back and extend the business relief and reverse the increases would mean further tilting our tax system towards the rich and powerful. Republicans are also planning to push for reductions in government spending, although the exact contours of that policy appear less clear. Bloomberg government reported here this week that the four House Republicans seeking to lead the House Budget Committee are all exploring changes to Social Security and Medicare to reduce costs for the federal budget, seeking to use the debt ceiling or the government shutdown to force the issue, which is not that far away. So, this is the reason why, or one of the reasons why, Democrats are willing to come to the deal table and say, okay, well, if you want these tax cuts for corporations to be renewed, we will possibly do this if you give us something like the child tax credits and the adult tax credits, the EITC, also known as the low income adult tax credits, which can be thousands of dollars for low income adults. So there's a potential deal on that to be made. There's a lot of potential deals to be made here before the end of the year. So I'll keep you up to date here, as literally anything could happen here before the end of the year, or nothing could happen. Yeah, so remember that the Democrats right now can pass anything in the House they want on their own. They don't need Kevin McCarthy. They don't need a single Republican in the House. Kevin McCarthy will probably throw a fit over anything passed in the House right now. Now, Mitch McConnell in the Senate is who they do need. He's a little bit more willing to deal if it suits him, but he is getting a lot of Republican pressure. It really depends on if he likes the deal or not. Remember, they will need 10 Republicans in the Senate to pass any type of deal. I guess you could reach out to Mitch McConnell right now if you're feeling lucky. You can reach out to his office. Just Google his phone number and call, email, tweet him, or anybody, any senator, any representative you want to, because anything could happen here before the end of the year. The new Congress comes in at the beginning of January, and then honestly, anything can happen then as well, because a lot of times when the new Congress comes in, there's a flurry of new activity. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. Make sure to subscribe down below and click the bell icon. I'll keep you up to date here with everything you need to know about here on a daily basis. And thank you so much for hitting the like button, and share these videos with your friends and family on social media, Facebook, or anything like that as well. It helps get our channel out there to new people. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can click here to see my new video about IRS tax refund checks and details as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.